Join the Discord, link down in the description. Thank you. Hello everybody, in today's video we are going to be talking about the hunter nerfs that have finally been graced upon us. Prismatic Hunter has finally got a bit of a nerf, so let's talk about it. Firstly, I'm going to go over what, Bungie did to nerf them in case you don't know. I'm sure most of you do, but we'll just run through it real quick. So in terms of the Threaded Spectre, they increase the cooldown of your dodge whenever the Threaded Spectre is equipped. If the clone is destroyed by attacks, it no longer spawns threadlings, so if somebody shoots it, it will no longer spit out threadlings, which is fine. That's a pretty good nerf. And they also increase the amount of time that the clone would distract nearby combatants before it explodes. I'm sure that is just a buff for PvE, just because technically the cooldown nerfs is a nerf for it. Okay, cool. That's all pretty good. And honestly, probably one of the biggest nerfs in the kit, to be honest with you. The snare bomb, the smoke bomb, they reduced the time that the smoke bomb would linger from 10 seconds to 3.5 seconds, which is a pretty hefty amount of time, as well as they reduced the player movement speed penalty by 25%, so the player can move a little bit quicker in the smoke. Then lastly, swarm grenades, they increase the base cooldown of 15%, and as well as they move swarm grenades to a slower recharging tier for non-passive grenade energy gains. So think your mods and whatnot. And I'm pretty sure they also said they made that the swarm grenades a little easier to shoot. So in terms of the nerfs, they're not bad, but they're also not the greatest in my honest opinion. So if you are just coming here for a straight answer, is Prismatic Hunter good or bad? It's still amazing. It's still one of, if not the best subclasses in the game. And now we're going to talk about it real quick. But if you just wanted a strict answer of how I thought about it, it's still probably the best subclass in the game. So in terms of the Threaded Spectre nerfs, this is probably, like I said, the thing that hit the Hunter class the hardest. That increased cooldown is very, very noticeable with Threaded Spectre. If you were running Threaded Spectre, with max mobility, I got my marksman dodge back in 28 seconds without Threaded Spectre, but then with Threaded Spectre equipped, you get it back in 38 seconds, which is a huge chunk of time. I would definitely notice it in the gameplays that I'm playing with it. Though the clone itself still feels amazing, I still think it's great when somebody gets close to you, you dodge, you slow them, you drop a clone, you have a little bit of a wall, you can play some cover. I don't know if, for me personally, if it's worth running with my playstyle. I will say if you're running certain exotics, such as an exotic class item that gives you like 6 coyote, you're probably not going to notice it. Or if you're running something like frosties to help you get your abilities back, you definitely aren't going to notice it. And then in terms of the lethality of the clone, I don't think losing the threadlings on attacks really matters. And if it does, you can always run the balance of power new hunter exotic. That will pretty much put the clone lethality back to what it was prior to the nerf and make it even a little bit better with 2 extra threadlings. But for the most part, I don't really think that's a huge nerf in the world. Occasionally I would shoot it to drop the threadlings, and you get an occasional kill here and there from the threadlings. I don't think it really matters a whole lot. I still think the clone is very, very strong. It's just certain builds probably aren't going to run the clone as much. And for me personally, I don't think I'm going to run the clone as much just because there's not really a reason to increase my dodge cooldown that much, and I don't feel the clone is the most beneficial in the world. But like I said, if you're somebody who has 2 dodges on your class item, or you like frosties, this thing is still fantastic in my honest opinion. And overall, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world to switch off Threaded Spectre, which I'll get into a little bit later once I talk about the other 2 nerfs, because there's still another aspect on Hunter that is fantastic, especially on your playstyle. In terms of smoke bomb, they decrease the linger duration. Depending on the player you are, this is going to affect you a lot. If you are a player that went for a lot of radar manipulation plays, this is going to suck for you. For me personally, I never did that. I occasionally would like throw it on a wall just because I thought somebody was going to run into it preemptively, but I never really went intentionally trying to mess people up. For the most part, I always use my smokes. I would throw it on somebody, get radiant, and then immediately win the gunfight because of how strong they were. And the movement speed penalty doesn't really matter for the most part. If you get caught in a smoke, you're going to die anyway. You're slowed down. You can barely see because like there's just so much darkness on the screen of the enemy player. It's just, you pretty much win. The thing that balanced smokes in the past is obviously they got buffed a little bit, and that's why people think that they started using them. But smokes have always been super strong. Smokes have always just been a free 1v1. The issue was on Night Stalker, you had to use your smoke for invisibility because it was great for keeping your invis uptime up. You'd use that in your dodge to keep your invis up. So you had no reason to use it to throw on people, even though it was still a free 1v1. And even if you did, Night Stalker as a class was a lot more balanced. In my opinion, Night Stalker was great because the dodge made you invisible and the melee was super strong, but the super wasn't the greatest. So there wasn't really, it kind of like all worked out, where when you get to Prismatic, everything was good, and it also gave you radiant, which was pretty crazy. So it really just showed how strong the smoke bomb really was. In terms of this, it's an okay nerf. I don't think it's anything super crazy though. In terms of swarm grenade, them increasing the duration by 15%. I barely noticed it. I felt like I almost always had a Swarm Grenade up. Personally, I run high discipline on my Hunter a lot of the time, so maybe that's why. If maybe lower discipline people will notice it a little bit more, but I still felt like I had my Swarm Grenade up almost all the time. And Swarm Grenades are still very, very strong. All right, so in terms of the subclass, for me personally, I actually am choosing to opt out of Threaded Spectre here, and I am going to start running Stylish probably, because I think this one is super, super strong anyway. Whether you want to use the Clone or Stylish, I think it just depends. I don't think the Clone is like the no-brainer pick by any means now, but it really depends on the type of player you are, because Stylish is fantastic when you use certain weapons, especially with this fragment. Personally, I like to use Thorn a lot. So if I hit a 3-tap with Thorn, I'll be able to go Invis, get wall hacks, I sever opponents, and it's super, super good. And then it also works on your Swarm Grenades. You throw a Swarm Grenade, and then if they die or you burn them and kill the target that's burned, you get Invis, wall hacks, and I think it's fantastic. Like I said, really depends on the type of player you are, what weapons you use, but in my mind, cool, they nerf Threaded Spectre. I still put this on. I still get the slow dodge. I still get one of the best supers in the game. I still have fantastic melee and grenades. The only thing that Prismatic Hunter kind of struggles with is its Transcendent. Its Transcendent grenade isn't the greatest by any means, but overall, it's still just a fantastic class. And it's pretty much still got everything you'd ever really want. So that begs the question, obviously, is Prismatic Hunter, gonna fall out of the meta? No, it's not. You're still gonna see it. Is it gonna be 45% in a Trials weekend? I don't know. The Destiny community tends to hear nerfs and immediately think things are bad. But no, this class still feels pretty much identical. The only thing that feels worse is the Threaded Spectre, but you can really build into it at the end of the day if you really want to have the OG feeling dodge, or if you just want to have a higher uptime on it. Just use an exotic class item with 6 Coyotes or Frosties, and you'll have that dodge up almost all the time. In terms of the other ability nerfs, if you are a radar manipulator enjoyer with the smoke bomb, that sucks. You got nerfed a little bit, but just start using the smoke bomb as an instant 1v1 win and you'll be fine. In terms of what I would do personally to fix the Hunter class, maybe make it not so broken, is the super. I'd probably do a little bit of tuning. I would either add make it a little bit of a longer cooldown, maybe put it online with some other roaming supers, because realistically, it's a mix between a shutdown and a roaming super. It's kind of both. So honestly, I think it should probably just have the cooldown of that. Or if you really want to nerf it like really hard, maybe make it just so you can only throw 2 knives. Keep the time the same so you can have a little bit more time to run around with it, and you can be a little more on target with the knives. Maybe you could try that. If it ends up being too weak, then buff it up in the future. In terms of the Threaded Spectre, like I said, I honestly think the Threaded Spectre is fine now. I don't think it's OP by any means, and it feels really, really good. In terms of stylus execution, I think it's just a strong one. In terms of PvP, PvE, it's incredibly broken, but PvP, I think it's just a strong aspect. I don't think it's broken. The slow dodge it's strong, but I also don't think it's necessarily the most broken thing in the world. Smoke bombs, I do think they are still broken. I don't really know how you fix them without making them super obsolete. I honestly think you should make it so the player who gets hit by the smokes, their screen isn't just completely darkness. Maybe brighten their screen up a little bit so they can at least fight a little bit back when they're in the smoke. At the end of the day, if some player is in a smoke, the enemy player probably got Radiant, and they also can move around freely where the person in the smoke can't. Why are you making it so they can't see as well? So maybe just brighten up their screen a little bit. Odds are they're still probably going to die, but at least in the off chance they might be able to actually win a 1v1 in a smoke. And then the Swarm Grenades, I think they just need to nerf the tracking a little bit, or maybe bring them back to kind of what they were a little. Not completely where they were unusable, but they are still very, very strong. And that's the thing about the Prismatic Hunter kit. I don't think there's anything in this class that is stupidly broken at this point, but it's all just like high like A tier. I don't think any of the abilities are S tier, but like they're just all still so strong. It'll pair so well together, and it just makes it super, super good, making it definitely a top 3 subclass, if not like I said, the best one. So I would still expect to see Hunters in every single game that you play. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the Hunter nerf. Let me know down below how you feel about them. If you're a Hunter player, let me know, are you getting hit by the nerfs a lot harder? If you are playing against Hunters, do you feel that they got nerfed and feel that you're in a better playing field? And we're going to have to wait to see how Trials fares, because we have 2 weeks of Iron Banner, of course. Thank you guys so much. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and you guys have a good rest of your day.